Good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you may be watching this beautiful transmission. 'Tis I, Mike Martins. And let's do a little bit of Australian housing talk, and then another video I'll do some Canadian housing talk, and then Wednesday night we'll do some trends in the housing market and do all the housing talk. Lots of problems happening right now in the UK and Ireland, and California is starting to crumble, and so is Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver. Toronto's still on decline, so it's going to be an interesting trends in the housing market this Wednesday at 7 p.m. my time on my backup channel, guys, because I got a strike for talking about not buying homes. Anyways, this is by the Property Observer. This was sent to me. This is yesterday's article. This is a big problem. Why the RBA will cut rates in 2019. This will be the absolute downfall. They're trying to do anything and everything they can in their power to try and make this housing crash not crash. They're trying to make everything in it, but they can't do it. Everybody is so far behind. There's a small percentage of, quite a bit of a percentage of people underwater, which means that they owe more for their houses than what they bought them for. So their house is worth less than what they bought their homes for, so they're underwater. That's what I meant to say. But this is becoming a big problem. What are they going to do? They want to slash rates so they could see if they could put life back into the market. The ailing Australian housing market. And I've been following this market for many years now. Many years, and I've been telling people. And the video that I got flagged, that I got striked on, for a copyright strike with no music and no background and nothing, and just me in my backyard reading from a piece of paper, telling people that not to buy in Sydney because you're going to see a mass exodus of people leaving. And people could attest to this. People will say, yeah, I remember that in my video, Mike. It was years ago. But for some reason, they're trying to silence me now. Why? You know what I'm saying? So, there are 3 leading economists who think that the Reserve Bank will be cutting interest rates this year. AMP Capital's Shane Oliver, Industry Super Stephen Anthony, and market economist Stephen Kokoulos. So, everyone's got pretty much the same name. The Reserve Bank is conflicted. It knows the economy is slowing and the risks are building in asset markets, especially East Coast property, Mr. Anthony told 9 Entertainment. But should that be official forecast, it also knows if it can manage sentiment, it may also contribute to the softening of activity rather than a bust, especially via property prices and dwelling investments. It was more likely we had entered a secular bear market phase. With a secular bear market, why are they giving it these metaphoric names? What was that? I don't think I've ever used this in my life. A secular bear market phase. Yeah, a secular bear market. Like what was that one we were reading from New Zealand, that housing, and they were trying to calm everybody down because the pricing of housing is going down into double digits, and then they were like, they were trying to massage the people using these swindly type language so people and investors could stay calm. It's all good. With the background being declining residential house prices, thank you, especially in Sydney and Melbourne, with the wealth effects will be significant, like reducing household consumption growth to at below 2% in 2019. Here's the problem, guys. People are consuming. And not only are they consuming food, but people are consuming car insurances for expensive cars they shouldn't have bought. They're consuming for vacations they took that they shouldn't have taken. They're consuming for, so they're consuming for the wrong things. A lot of places didn't consume to open a business and hire more people and potentially quadruple and make their money back. And a lot of people forgot that. They just used their homes as ATM machines and kept drawing off it. 18 months ago, most of them were forecasting a rate rise in 2018. 6 months later, prediction moves to 2019. Now the general consensus is rates won't go up until 2020, with some even calling 2021. So what are they trying to do, guys? It's very simple. We are living right now in a time of debt creation or debt growth. We're not living in wealth growth or wealth creation anymore. In the 80s and up to the really early 90s, we were living in wealth creation. Everyone was building and buying assets and actually paying them off. You know, people were actually really doing it the right way, doing it on layaway, paying things off, doing it by the book. You know what I'm saying? So this is the problem. This is a big, 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 big problem. And if they decide to even cut interest rates, yes, it will inflate the bubble temporarily until people run out of home equity or their loan to value runs out again. And a lot of people are underwater now. So those people are hoping to get the market resuscitated to a point where they could at least say that they're broken even and they could sell and walk away. But a lot of people, that won't happen. That will not happen. They're going to lower rates and they're going to make it more. I call them teaser loans or teaser mortgages, where people get teased into it. Well, that's such a cheap rate. They're giving the money out for free. But look at how much you're borrowing. You're borrowing 100 large to buy a house, a big asset like a house, and you borrow 100, 200 large. Okay, I would say that's good. With those rates, you're doing good. But if homes were 200,000, rates right now would be at 12, 13%. But a lot of people don't see that. You know what I'm saying? They need a medium price, like a good medium price where interest rates are not so overly valued, and the markets and commodities work within a nice general balance, so a nice feel. And the only time we had that was in like mid-70s until 91, 92. From the mid-70s, like 1974, to like 91, 92. That was a really good time because the banks were paying you 5, 6, 7, 8% on your money. So if you put $1 million in your bank account, you get $50,000, $60,000 a year for having $1 million. You put $1 million in your bank account now, they could probably give you like $2,000 a year because they're not paying out anything. So people aren't making off their wealth. So they stolen the wealth from people to artificially lower interest rates in 2007. And once they artificially lowered interest rates, they've created this black swan or this black pearl of artificially inflated assets. And now the black swan's going to come in and collect. And that's what happened in 2007 in the U.S. And things are going to get a lot worse because now they're going to be pulling on pensions. Things are going to get a lot worse because in 2007, the housing market wasn't foreign investor driven. Now it is. And now because the Australian, the Canadian, the American proper can't, the UK proper, the New Zealand proper can't afford to buy in their own countries, they're leaving their major cities to go to smaller towns. Big problem, you know what I'm saying? Research find Aussies facing $1,863 each in holiday debt. Again, people consuming to take vacations. People consuming to take vacations they can't afford to take. Why would you go into debt to do, like what I do, you know what I used to do when I was young, when I was 17, 18, and I used to work when I finished high school? I would save $5, $10 a day back in the day. And at the end of the year, I'd have enough to take a trip. Done. I don't have to borrow anybody's money to go away. Aussie households managed to rack up a terrifying record amount of debt in 2018, where here's what you need to know to get on top of it all. For the first time in history, Australians have tallied up a staggering collective credit card debt of almost $30 billion. But there's like 30 million people in Australia, right? 25 million? 30 million? Holy smokes! A terrifying statistic was the result of a frenzied Christmas shopping, meaning many Aussie households are heading into 2019 with a financial hangover. Oh my God. According to new forecast, Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, data analyzed by comprehension sitefinder.com.au is likely the Notion borrowed $29.7 billion on credit cards in December 2018. Wow. That's it. Borrow. Keep it up with the Joneses. This is an over-reliance on credit cards in December means the cost of Christmas is carried well into the new year and could take a toll on household budgets throughout 2019. Despite there being more cards on the market than ever, the average balance actually occurring interest per card has fallen to 2470 in 2012 to 1984, 1984 towards the end of 2018. That implies we're actually getting better when it comes to paying off our plastic. Yeah, but you know what? This is not good. 30 billion bucks. Well, there's more population than before. I don't think that's an accurate statement to make, because the population, let's say there's 10 more million people since that year, like arguably, right? So there's a lot more to kind of spread around, you know, if you know what I'm saying, right? Homeless in parts of Western Sydney has jumped 80%. This is yesterday's article. This is not 80%, you know, like, 80% increase in wages or whatever. This is 80% of homeless. This is a big deal. But it's really sad that people aren't... Well, I'm not saying that people don't care. I know people care, but a lot of people have their own problems. But it's going to start hitting close to home. You know, it's going to start hitting the least vulnerable people you think that would end up like this are going to be ending up like this. Depression. You're going to be kicking off lots of depression. Homeless in Western Sydney is growing faster rate than the CBD, as experts fear the rising costs of living is turning rough sleeping into an increasingly suburban problem. Now, here's the problem: the people live. Some of the actually a decent percentage of Californians that are homeless work full time, 40 hours. I know one guy that works two jobs, one full time and one part time job, and he's homeless. Okay, I know of teachers, like high school teachers and stuff, living in Vancouver that live out of their cars, and they're high school teachers, and they've gotten a degree. So with student loans piling up and everything piling up on the back burner, those things don't disappear unless you pay them off, right? Homeless in Western Sydney is growing at a faster rate than the CBD. Experts fear the rising cost of living is turning rough sleeping into an increasingly suburban problem. New analysis of census data reveals that between 2011 and 2016, homeless in Western Sydney jumped 67%. Across the region, there were 5,850 people without a roof over their head. In Canterbury, Bankstown alone, the number of homeless people jumped 86%. To 2,582, while Fairfield, the figure jumped 61% to 2,226. Over the same period, homelessness in the CBD grew 51%. So experts are blaming rental affordability. Rental affordability, but Mike, you have to have a job to rent. A lot of these people work. That's the thing. Back in the day, these Western countries, in 1984, you could work bagging groceries in a supermarket, bagging groceries, and everyone pointing their finger at you and laughing at you because you're bagging the groceries. And you could, you keep to yourself back in the day because you don't freak out back in the day because people would look at you weird. And you'd pay your house off in 4 years, in 5 years. You'd pay your house off, not put a down payment. And that's the problem. Nowadays, bagging groceries, you're going to have to bag groceries 500-600 hours a week to pay off a house in 5 years, or 600 hours a week, if there was that many hours in a week. But that's how bad it's gotten, and that's how depreciated the money in Western countries have become. 2018 marked the worst year for Australian housing market since the global financial crisis 10 years ago. So, 2018 is marked as the worst year. Here's the value index from housing. There's Canberra, Darwin, Perth, Sydney, Hobart, Adelaide, Brisbane, and Melbourne. There it is here. So there's the graph right there showing you how everything, except Hobart. Let me see. Yeah, Hobart's going up. Hobart's going up straight up. Canberra's going up. Adelaide's going up. And then Perth's going down, Darwin's going down, and it looks like Sydney's on a downward slope. So is Melbourne. There's the Moody's activities here. There's all the different regions here. And 2017 was the hottest year. Looks like it's the hottest year for everything. And that's when a lot of capital flow was leaving China. A lot of money. I'm talking trillions of dollars left China. Huge amounts of wealth left the Chinese coasts. Maris building in Western Sydney incomplete, full of defects, says owners. Again, everyone's like saying, oh, the Opal Tower is a one-off. This doesn't happen out. Trust me, with the rate of building and construction and the speed of construction that's been happening in the last 10 years, it's probably the biggest in human history we've had for residential. Ever. Bigger than any industry we've had, bigger than anything. The housing market is the biggest scam slash outright criminal thing ever. Getting people roped into mortgages they could never ever pay off. And then when you need to stimulate and start moving the economy forward by raising interest rates and complying, and then so they're you can adjust against inflation, you can't, because then no one could afford their payments. Sydney developer builder that is subject to wind up actions in the Australia Taxation Office over unpaid taxes. He has been accused of delivering incomplete and defective buildings by residents in at least 2 of its apartment developments. There you go. The allegations come amid growing concerns about apartment building standards following the evacuation residents of the icon-built Opal Tower at Sydney Olympic Park after cracks appeared in the 10th floor. Precast concrete panel and longer-running non-compliant cladding issues in buildings like Lacrosse Docklands that caught fire in 2014. The former owner of an apartment in 62-unit Brittany Apartments building on Morley Street in Sutherland, which Maris completed in 2012, said fire defects in the building had only recently been rectified following an official order. Wow. So things got done when they were forced to get done. Wow. Other issues in the building, he claimed, including totally inadequate waterproofing, resulting in molds on most of the floors, and the skin of the exterior was lifting, and elevator out of action for 2 weeks due to water leakage and front picket fence that is rotting away. The site never completely finished nor cleaned up, in my opinion. Should never have been given an occupancy certificate, said the former owner, who moved in October after 6 years after. October after 6 years. So this is it. In another much larger and more recently completed Marius development on Arburn Road with the 229 apartments, an owner said they were concerned that common areas would be finished if the developer collapsed. So the developer was defaulting, and they were concerned that the building wasn't going to be completed. So I told you guys, it's not just the Opal Towers. It's a lot more than the Opal Towers. There's a lot of hidden, and it's not just in Australia or in Sydney. This is in London. This is in New Zealand. This is in Canada. This is in the United States. This is everywhere, you know? And guys, I wanted to wrap up these key articles here in case I don't get to them on trends in the housing market. I want to thank everyone for joining me on Australian Housing Talk. Leave your comments below and links to other videos to create awareness, guys. I'm not deleting comments, people. I am not. People are saying, oh, why you delete my I didn't. YouTube is unsubscribing people to me, and they're removing people's comments so that my channel looks less and less attractive. So, guys, don't forget to hit me up in the tip jar. I appreciate $1, $2. It's all good, guys. Hit me up in the tip jar. Keep this transmission going. I know I'm not the greatest, reader in the world, but I want to get this word out there. I want people to know. I've been covering this housing thing for Australia for 4 years, and I've been doing it total for 7 years. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. and hope to see you on Trends in the Housing Market. I'll leave a link below to my backup channel so you guys could see what is happening on our live show, and add me to Skype, Mike Martins 1980 on Skype. Message me once to say, hey Mike, I'm in Perth, or Mike, I'm in Auckland, Mike, I'm in London, I need to be on your show, I need to discuss what's happening. And if you're in any of these buildings, let me know. I'll have you on the show. Give us an insight on what's going on. Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and thanks for hitting up the tip jar.